engine, just one wing, and you move your wing in the 3 dimensions of space just with the weight of your body. And finally you forget that you have a wing, you just fly like a bird.
There's very little room for bad judgment, and very little room for error. I have to do it right.
The fun is actually the challenge. In order to be able to do an aerobatic routine or even just a maneuver, one has to practice. One has to practice a lot, because it does not happen automatically.
Well, we're the first generation of humans that gets to play in the air. From the past, from the very beginning, people have looked to the air and wanted to fly of some kind, like a bird or something like that. And we're the first generation of human beings that gets to play in the air. It's a real important time.
invention was not an accident at all. It was a purposeful search for a kind of wing that would be less expensive, more rugged, more practical than the conventional kind of wing.
Making my eyes water. Look at that sail, it's like a load of washing.
And again, it's his unique signature, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Well, the notes I can recall on the sheet of paper I got with my glider, there were two sheets of paper, I think. One was how to rig it and the other one was how to fly it. And the bit about flying was that you pointed it into the wind and you settled it so it was just off the stall and you ran. And as you ran, you pushed the bar away. And when your feet were off the ground, you pulled the bar back, but not so far as you would crash. Suddenly, I recall on that first flight, I was up in the air about 40 feet up. I couldn't remember the bit about coming down. The other sentence, I hadn't got to that bit really.
When hang gliding started, the second phase really, you could go to NASA and you could get all the technical details that you could want to get you to the moon and back, but you couldn't get a thing about low-speed flight, 14, 16 miles an hour. There wasn't just nothing in the computers about it at all. So we were really starting back again from square one where they left off in about 1908.
I think in our society, we're used to not to be responsible of ourselves. We live with many rules, many conventions, many things, and we're not really responsible about what we're doing. The others are responsible, the government, the other people, the job, the society, the family. And I think when you fly, you learn something that's very important and very different, is to be responsible about your life, responsible about what you're doing exactly at the second you do it. You're the only one who knows which speed you need, how to feel, how to move. What I have in my mind before the takeoff is really concentration on the technical part, because by that time it's maybe more technique than psychology. You have to prepare every part very good. You have to prepare your material. Everything has to be perfect. You cannot miss anything. Then, during the time we're going up under the balloon, I think it's the worst part of the flight, because there is nothing to do. You know, the technical is already done, and the flight is not yet come. I always ask to myself why I'm doing that, because I could be sitting very quietly on the ground, just looking the balloons flying in the sky. Well, I started to fly with hang gliders 17 years ago, and I went on all the steps, you know, normal flying and night flying and two-seater and altitude, and each time I wanted something more strong, you know, to be more, to get more awareness of what you're doing, to get more the conscience of the three dimensions and of your body moving in those three dimensions. And this really, I got it with the acrobatic. Well, you are so much present to yourself, so much aware of what you're doing, that you don't have to protect yourself against anything. So you feel your emotions, you feel what you're thinking, you feel what your body is doing. You don't have a mind who is controlling a body, you have everything working together. We are in a materialistic society who has many qualities, but the problem is that we forget ourselves. We try to escape, going always farther and farther and faster in the technology, on the computers, but we are losing the meaning of the man.
There we go. Up. Yay!
I think that flying was always the dream of man. Some people will go to the paragliding because it's easier and it's lighter on the back to climb a mountain with. Some other people will want more.
I was just caught by flying. I think real flying is gliding without a motor. That's real flying. You have to keep yourself in the air, and the attraction for me is this tension.
Rolt. Vrij. 150 meter. Kabel af en de...
I think that's the nicest thrill of gliding. Every time you catch that thermal and your glider goes up. Because the point is you are going down, 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 and you know you're going down. And then suddenly your variometer tells you you are in lifting air. You feel fantastic, you go up. And then you have to find the center of the thermal. You can go up maybe to 1,000 meters, maybe higher. And that's giving, I think, the best thrill of gliding. This finding this lifting air. instead of landing in a field, you can fly home with that thing. Some of the machines you can start yourself. They need about 6 times less petrol than when they are towed up by another aircraft, and about 3 times less than they are towed up by a winch.
In my case, without engine power, there's very little room for bad judgment, and very little room for error. I have to do it right.
The fun is actually the challenge. In order to be able to do an aerobatic routine or even just a maneuver, one has to practice. One has to practice a lot, because it does not happen automatically. The glider wants to do anything but what I wanted to do. Now I have all the energy I need to do my airshow routine. Height is potential energy. And I'm converting this height now into kinetic energy by going into a dive, accelerating. Now I'm losing height, but I'm gaining speed and therefore kinetic energy. There's very little tolerance because I'm moving in air, which moves often. I could be flying at a day where there's convection, which means thermals, rising air currents, descending air currents. At the very end of my airshow routine, I'm doing the inverted ribbon cut. We're having 2 poles between which a ribbon is suspended 25 feet above the ground, so fairly low. And I have to make sure that I'm at that ribbon at this particular point at the right speed, which is somewhere between 100 and 120 miles an hour.
It's a relaxant, it's a tranquilizer, it's a healer. I'm totally addicted to it. I have been since the first jump I made, and I just can't visualize life without jumping.
It gives me tremendous feeling of freedom. It gives me a 60-second adrenaline rush, which I cannot achieve by anything on the ground.
For the first time in your life, you and the earth are separate. When you go up in the airplane, you're in this little silver tube and you land in it. And when you jump out of an airplane, you have a feeling of self and everything else.
There isn't anything else you can think about when you're jumping. It's occupying every moment of your body. You just need to involve yourself in it mentally as well as physically, and you can't think about a bad day at the office or a hard time at home or an argument with somebody. It all disappears when you're in the sky.
We're three-dimensional beings, okay? But we live in a two-dimensional world, and when you get into free fall, you get back into that three-dimensional element, and the only way you can actually duplicate that on the ground is in water. Otherwise, you're just two-dimensional unless you trip and fall. Then you get three-dimensional for a little bit before you hit the ground.
Er komt allemaal een stuk overal van Monica thuis.
Right, when Gil and everybody picks up one grip as they come in. Ready, set, go! Builds off of me. Everybody fly to the center, a little pressure into the middle of this so there's not tension on it.
Alone in a blue sky, no feeling of falling, no feeling of speed. As soon as you get stabilized at 120 miles an hour, the background noise blends in, no speed. If someone comes by you, you see the speed.
It's not like you're falling. I mean, it's definitely not like flying, but the space is so big that you actually do feel like you're flying and that you're suspended for a minute. And then as you get closer to the ground and it starts rushing up at you, you realize, yeah, I'm falling.
Yeah, skydiving is dangerous. If you're careless, you're going to die. There's just no doubt about it.
It is dangerous if you make mistakes, if you're not concentrate on what you do. You have to be absolutely concentrate on what you do.
take pains to be prepared mentally and physically. You just don't go up there with a lax attitude or with your equipment not perfect.
If you miss something during preparation, that can cause danger.
And you can't fix it midair. When something goes wrong, you've got 3 or 4 seconds to fix it. And you'd better thought about it. There's no time to say, well, what do I do now? You better know.
Get down, get eye contact with it. Ready, set, go.
Driving along, you watch the phone poles, they go whipping by, and you look at the mountain in the distance, just sitting there. No, the Earth is in the distance. Until you hit about 2,000 feet, and then everything on the ground starts rushing away from you, and tunnel vision is called ground rush. And it's time to pull your parachute.
Yeah. Okay, and break up.
Maybe in the long run, our bodies will adapt to flight, and there actually will be human flight without parachutes or any other aid. I'd love to fly, but I probably won't see it. You know, I'm probably just one of the stepping stones on the way there.
That was fun.